Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, if you want to comment or ask questions, just log on to our website, theworldreport.org, and send us an email. President Trump goes after Big Pharma, as well as a bunch of other CEOs, and says we've got to get drug prices down. He's also signed executive orders streamlining the pipeline process. How will that affect energy going forward? The Trump administration just fired the first shot in what could be a European trade war, as Trump advisor Peter Navarro accuses Germany of grossly undervaluing the euro to exploit the U.S. Let's start with that, Maury.
Sure.
Obviously, every nation fudges with their currency for their own behalf. It makes sense.
So they can export more.
Correct. But is this firing a shot at the EU and at Germany specifically by pointing them out and saying that they're undervaluing the euro
Well, certainly.
to combat the United States?
Absolutely, because Germany, after the United States and China, is the largest producer of gross domestic product. And Germany depends on the exports, and they've been very strong with it. So Germany is feeling threatened by what Trump is doing. They're seeing a strong man running the United States after the weakest president we've had in decades.
Do the Germans have anything to worry about with a trade war with the United States?
Well, of course they do. They can't win it because the point is it's not only Germany, it's, I believe, the European community is going to totally collapse within the next 2 or 3 years. I think the British Brexit really was the first step, and they're trying to say, well, it takes the parliament and we vote. The point is, what the big mistake was, they took the major nations of Europe, France, Italy, and Germany, and the United Kingdom, and they let the orders come from Brussels. So the small potato people from Brussels were telling the big countries what to do. I think that's what started the whole thing. And they feel that they're the ones. It would be like the United Nations having the power to tell us what to do.
I think that the immigration situation was the straw that broke the camel's back going to the Brexit, and was probably going to happen in France and probably going to happen in Germany.
Well, that inflamed it. That made it much worse and much faster. I think what we're going.
And don't you think that's what the British people were saying? Was
Well,
we want control of our borders. We don't want this openness with
not
everybody.
Not the Scots or the Irish, but the Anglicans. Yes, very, very. The real English people said they still kind of bask somewhat in the glory of their great history when they control 80% of the world. Yeah, they see themselves going down the tubes and just being another country within this very mediocre European community.
Now, you being an energy guy, the president's recent executive orders streamlining the pipeline process, trying to get the Keystone pipeline approved, that's got to make you feel pretty good about the future of energy in this country, you know?
Good and bad, and I'll tell you why. Forget about the price of oil going back up again. It isn't going to happen. Even OPEC, which always lies and cheats in meeting their objectives. Yeah. Let's say they go along exactly with even if they stay within the framework of their objective, you wouldn't see the price go any higher than it is now for the next few months or in the future. But what's happening right now, and I know that, as you say, from my energy context, the shale deals are exploding in this country. They're putting money back in.
But if the prices aren't going to go any higher, how does it make it worthwhile to explore and to go after the shale if the prices are low?
Yeah, because the costs are going down. You see, the people that are providing the instruments, the instrumentation, the apparatus, the drilling rigs, the companies that are big in that particular business are keeping their costs down so they can sell more of it. We're at a point right now where we're producing 9 million barrels a day, which is about 3 times what it was before we started the shale deal about 10 years ago. Maybe we've actually been in the shale deal.
And we've actually cut back our usage too.
Yeah, we were up over 10 million and we're down to 9 million. You know what we use as a nation of 330 some million people? We use 20 million barrels. So there's if we suddenly decide overnight we are going to do all the production of energy right here in the United States, and we're not going to import anything overseas, you'd have a doubling at least of what we're doing. And I don't know.
Now, there's another side to that, though, because I come from the standpoint that if we're going to take and we're going to deplete the Saudis' oil, I have no problem with that. If we're going to take oil from other parts of the world and save what we have here, I think that's a good thing for us long term.
We could. Yes. So what is the point you're making?
Just saying that if we don't become energy independent, but we continue to take from the rest of the world, I consider that as a positive in the long term for the country.
Of course. Nixon, don't you recall when Nixon said energy independence is the number one objective of the United States because we were being punished by the Saudis?
You mean when he created the Department of Energy?
Well,
that reason?
You know, interesting Nixon is probably the most paradoxical president we ever had. You look at him as a sourpuss and a guy who always was negative and
bully
and the political games that he played. But from a standpoint of foreign policy and knowing what was good for the United States, there was nobody better than Nixon. That guy knew his foreign policy.
But how about taking us off the gold standard? What do you think about that?
Well, that's a very interesting question. That's a
that was Nixon too.
People. Yeah. Well, see, a lot of people are confused. They think it was FDR. FDR fixed the price of the gold at $35 per ounce. Nixon said, we're not going to tie ourselves to Fort Knox anymore. We're going to let chips fall where they may. But you know what happened? Prices went up all over the place because of that. The one good thing about having the gold standard, it maintained a price level that couldn't go wild the way it did after we went off the gold standard. So anyway, Nixon was a two-sided kind of a person. There's a lot of things about him that were very unpleasant. But then my son, who interviewed him for 2 days running, said he'd never met a man more foreign policy-wise and understanding of what the world's all about. If it wasn't for Nixon, China and Russia wouldn't have had a falling out. He sacrificed Taiwan in order to have a leverage on China to break up with Russia. And because he felt that once the Soviet Union no longer had the support of China, the chances of a horribly idea of a nuclear war would be lessened. So he did things like that. He also fudged on the promise of getting us out of Vietnam. I think he wanted to, but he didn't follow through with that. You know, the guy that really did it, and one of my favorite presidents, believe it or not, was Gerald Ford. He had the most decent humanitarian president I think we ever had.
The only man that didn't seek the White House.
He didn't seek the White House, but he was a decent guy. I had a chance to spend 2 hours with him once when I was getting a haircut and we were talking. He was about as down to earth as anybody that you could ever find.
God bless him. Big Pharma is now under attack from the president. He says we need to reduce drug prices, which I would agree with. We just talked about tariffs in the last segment and border taxes and things like that. He's been scolding the automakers. He's been scolding the steel industry. Basically, he's been going after pretty much every CEO and every company in the world about staying in America. Is this a good idea or a bad idea? Are we running a little bit
well, let me
here?
put it this way. He showed his power and his leverage even before he became president. Once he was nominated, he said to Ford, don't build that plant down in Mexico. He said to Carrier, don't send...
So how do we know what he promised them behind the scenes?
No, I don't think so.
Tax incentives, tax cuts?
I don't think he had to. I think they realized, you know, being a businessman, I know when a guy means business, and I know that they see in this guy, I'll tell you what they see in this guy, a dictator, a guy who isn't, what is a dictator? A dictator is going to get his way one way or the other. And if you don't play ball with him, you're on the outside looking in. And that's the way business feels about him. They may hate him, they may love him, but they know darn well he's going to get. Look at it. There are thousands of jobs that have already been saved because of Trump, and because not you, because you understand everything I talk about, but the average person doesn't realize that under Obama we denuded our whole manufacturing sector. Do you know that?
And Bush, you got to go back to the Bush administration as well.
Bush was just very frankly, I had no respect for him, other than he was a very nice man. But at the turn of the century, we had over 20 million people in manufacturing. Today, we have less than half of that. Some of that is due to technological changes, but most of it is due to the fact we have allowed the conglomerates to make their goods overseas and then ship them back here without any tariff.
What do you make of the unions backing Trump? I thought that would be a very unusual circumstance. That really caught me by surprise.
No, and I can understand. I'm not trying to be a wise guy.
These guys are hardcore Democrats to the core, and they came out saying, "I've never had a meeting with a president or anybody that inspired me like that." Well, I was blown away by this.
I wasn't, because the unions have to have members in order to exist.
And jobs.
Of course, and wages. And the point was, they realized the way Obama was treating factory expansion, employment in industry, and letting the big companies go overseas, they were losing membership by the thousand. The only unions that still have any tangibility in this country
teachers
are the government unions. Absolutely, and that's it. And that gives them some hope for the future. But as far as industrial unions, they have never been as bleak as they are now.
Yeah.